Hello YouTube. Hey, how is everybody going out there? Okay, tonight I'm going to go ahead and make a video, and it's going to be one that I promised a while back that I was going to do, and I haven't done it yet, so here it goes tonight. And yes, I'm in my lovely garage behind me. You can see my van back here. Nothing over there. I used to have a Ford Escape, but it's gone. But got my good old Ford Freestar van here, and I'll tell you what, it's a really good vehicle. It's 2005, and I'll tell you what, it runs really good, so I haven't had any major problems with it, you know, real bad problems anyway, just the minor things so far, so hopefully it stays that way for a while. It's been a really good car. So anyway, today's video I'm going to go ahead and talk about Kings Island today, and like I said, I've worked at Americana, Fancy Farm in the past. For some of you that's the older group of people out there that might be watching this video, I will do a video about those parks as well in the future sometime. I don't know when, but sometime in the future I'll do a video. I don't want to keep these videos too long if at all possible, because I know it gets boring possibly, but if you like to follow history, I will tell you some history about Kings Island and my experiences at Kings Island as a child and as a teenager and as a grown-up, and also give you the experiences, good and bad, at Kings Island, and also the years that I worked at Kings Island and spent a lot of time working in a great place. I mean, it was a great place to work. Okay, first off, I'm just going to go ahead and just start right on out at it. Kings Island's been around since 1972, which you should know that. And it's been a really good park. When it first opened, it was a great park. It had lots and lots of rides when it first opened, and I'm going to talk about some of the rides, I guess, maybe. I'm going to go through the list of rides that I know that have been at Kings Island. And if you guys want to, you can comment below and you can talk about them, maybe your experience or what you would like to see Kings Island get back in the future. And I'll even let you know whenever some of the rides that I really miss a lot riding as a child over at Kings Island, and I wish that would come back, but of course more than likely it won't happen for some of these rides. Some of them are really old ancient rides that today's generation might not even care for so much. So let's go ahead and start on. First of all, at Kings Island, we're just going to talk about the rides, and we'll talk about my employment with Kings Island. Trams. You guys remember the parking lot trams? Well, we used to have them, and man, you talk about end of the day, man, you were so tired from all that walking, man. It was just like, you wanted that tram ride to get to the car because you're parked way out there in Egypt, way out there. So, you'd be sitting there wanting to get a ride on them trusty trams. And remember, on the top of the trams, you used to say, Sohio, Sohio. And for your younger generation out there, Sohio was a gasoline company here in the United States that was here before BP stations bought them out. BP, British Petroleum, they bought Sohio out many moons ago. And as a matter of fact, I worked at Sohio for a couple of months. I didn't like it. It was so boring. But I worked at a Sohio gas station doing full service fueling. And back then, we used to have people like me go, I was a fuel service attendant. I would go out and wash the windows, check the oil, check the battery, and pump their gas for them. That's for the people who didn't want to get out of their car. So they would pull up to the full service pump, and they had to pay more money, of course. It'd be about maybe 50 or 60 cents more per gallon to fill up, but you gave them full service treatment, and you take their payment, process it, and so forth. So, but anyway, that's one thing I did back whenever I was in high school. I believe I was 17 years old when I worked at Sohio, and that was in Middletown, Ohio. And that station was on the corner of Reinhardt's Boulevard, or no, excuse me, University Boulevard and Nelbar Street, if you're familiar with Middletown, Ohio, the corner of Nelbar Street and University Boulevard, which is close to the former Marsh supermarket location. So for anybody that's interested in that, it's no longer there. There's Domino's Pizza there, stands there now. The original station has been torn down long ago. Okay, then next up, Eiffel Tower. Everybody knows Eiffel Tower. That's the iconic staple of Kings Island, and I'm sure the Eiffel Tower is going to be there to stay for many years to come. As a matter of fact, I think they're painting it right now. I'm not positive on that. I haven't really been following too much Kings Island activity this past week, so but I've heard bits and pieces that they are in the process of doing some painting, I guess. And from the last I heard, it really needs a paint job. So I think they paint it once every maybe 10 to 15 years. They give it a paint job. Excuse me, but my nose is itching. Allergies are killing me, man. It's weather. Okay, the Green Carousel. You know, the Green Carousel is really a historical carousel. It's an old one. I believe it was 1926, and it has the organ, the band organ with it. And there was a gentleman and a youngster a few years, about maybe 3 or 4 years ago, that went and worked on that organ and got it working again. Paramount let it go to hell, and they never did fix it. And once it broke, they just let it go. Same thing with what they did with the glockenspiel, where they fixed the glockenspiel over there with Fest House. You know, they let it go to hell and never did fix it, and just done away with it. It's the little things that keeps people happy about a park. And Kings Island, if you guys, or Cedar Fair, if you're watching, executives, you're watching this video, thank you so much for fixing that glockenspiel. I know I've asked for it, and other people's asked for it, and I know you've listened, and thank you so much, because the little things like that is what makes people like me happy. And I'm sure there's many, many other people that likes it happy, or makes them happy, as well as the children who get to sit there and watch it come on every so often, and they can sit there and listen to the little chicken dance going off and everything. It's pretty cool. How about the Les Taxis? Okay, remember that? Now, that was on the antique car ride that was on the Coney Mall side, Coney Island side of the park. Okay, over the Coney Mall area, that was the Les Taxis. And the other antique cars was the Ohio Overland Livery, I believe it was. Had a little bit of a brain fog there. But that was over on the other side, in the Rivertown side. So there was two different antique car rides that intertwined with each other, and it was really neat, pretty cool. So there's two different types that was intertwined, and it's a shame that Paramount took that out and put that stupid stunt track coaster in there. That stunt track could have been put someplace else. They should have left the antique car rides alone, left it, and preserved that area. It was so beautiful. It was so beautiful and just really nice. And it's a shame that it's been destroyed. And also, the Lion Country Safari, the monorail. How about the monorail? I mean, you know, that was really good. I know Cedar Fair, they got out of doing animals, and animals were not their thing. So I can understand that. And the expense of taking care of all those animals, and plus incidents where lions have attacked the trainers over there, and also even attacked the monorail one year. And did some pretty bad things. So some pretty bad things happened with the monorail throughout this, the duration that it was there at the park. But they also had the little Monkey Island out there, if you remember that, where the Screamin Demon roller coaster used to be. And that was the loop coaster that went forward and then backwards. But you had to walk a mile up the steps, lots of steps to climb to get up there, to just take a ride going forward and then backwards again, and that was it. And then you had to go all the way down, and if you want to ride it again, you had to go all the way back up, and a lot of times 99% of the people didn't re-ride it because of those steps. That was really a pain, but it was still a ride, and it was old, and it was something neat, so something a lot of parks didn't have. So let's go ahead and go to the King Cobra and the stand-up coaster. First park in the entire United States, made by Togo International out of Japan. King Cobra was a stand-up roller coaster that was there, and it was taken out because it was just breaking down. It was hard to get the parts for it. Togo International went bankrupt, so it became to a point where it was just not be able to repair and get the parts for it that needed to be, and so forth. And it pretty much met its service life at Kings Island, and that was really an awesome coaster. I loved it. I will tell you this: the last season that King Cobra was there, and I'm not going to lie about anything. This is all true, okay? And whenever I was riding it, my harnesses opened up enough that when I got back to the brake run, I was able to come out of my harness, okay? And I stayed that way when I got back in the station, and I had an employee ask me, "How'd you get out of that?" And I told him, I said it came loose. So that's probably part of the reason why the King Cobra ended up getting the axe, because, you know, they was having trouble probably with the seats. You know, the harnesses possibly opening up on some people as they was riding with traction. So, but me being a big guy, you know, that could also play a little bit into it as well with it opening up. But King Cobra was a good coaster. It was the first of its kind, and King's Island was the first to have it. Screamin Demon, I just talked to you a little bit about that. That was short-lived at the park. It was only there for, I believe 10 years. But it was a coaster count. It did go forwards, and then it stopped on the other side, and then it went backwards through the loop. And right below it was Monkey Island, where they had these little monkeys and stuff. And it was pretty cool. It was really cool. We love Monkey Island. And it was right there in front of Timberwolf, and that's what I was getting ready to talk about next. Timberwolf Amphitheater. Now, you know what? They have 10,000 seats. 10,000 seats. And you wouldn't think there's that many seats that are in there, but there are. There's 10,000 seats inside their amphitheater right there. And the park hosted many concerts back in the day, okay? And there was, I mean, New Kids on the Block, Pointer Sisters, the Jets, gosh, I mean, the list goes on. Beach Boys, Hank Williams Jr., Def Leppard even played there not too many years ago, but that was when Cedar Fair retained ownership of Kings Island, and they did have Def Leppard there one season, which really surprised me. Tears for Fears was there. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. There's many performers. One I remember the most was Pointer Sisters and Sister Sledge. I remember them being there, and that was really neat too. But that's going way back. Okay, I'm going to try to get this quickly here. Amazon Falls, also known as Congo Falls. It's, you know, a pretty neat ride. And Vertigo, also known as Face Off. Paramount installed that ride along with Drop Tower, which is still there now, which was Drop Zone. Those two rides are pretty good, not bad rides. And now Vertigo got a new train on it this year from a sister train, or from a sister park, from Dorney Park in Pennsylvania. And the reason being is that they dismantled the coaster over there and trashed it, okay, scrapped it, sent it to the scrapyard. And the train was a newer train, I guess, and that's the reason they brought it to Kings Island to give it some more service life. With my thinking on that, I'm thinking this might be the last year for Vertigo, okay? Keep that in mind. Vertigo might go away this year because of them doing away with the train they had before and bringing that train from their sister park after they got rid of that ride. And also, if you remember, in Vertigo, at California's Great America and out in San Francisco area, California, that ride had stranded riders on it for many hours, and it kept having technical difficulties and problems and people being stranded on it for hours. So they eventually just went ahead and took it out, and they shipped it over to Pennsylvania and repainted it, rethemed it, and did a big overhaul on it and reopened it over there, which it didn't have any more problems after that. I mean, they had some minor problems here and there, but it wasn't like it was where they was getting stuck on it consistently out in California. Remember the go-karts that they had there were Banshee entrances right now. They used to have Thunder Alley. And then also had the big swing flyer thing there now, and that's still there, of course. The ejector seat, which is sitting over there as well. Delirium, and I'll tell you what, Delirium was a great ride. I'll tell you what, that was one of the best rides that Kings Island put in, a flat ride. It's still very popular today, and here it is almost 20 years later, and that ride's still going, and it's an awesome ride, and it was a really good investment for for Paramount to put into the park back when they did. Cedar Fair ended up putting Max Air up at Cedar Point after they seen how popular that Delirium was at Kings Island, so they ended up getting them version, which is a similar, same type of ride up there, and called it Max Air. Viking Fury ship, 1984, I think, was when they installed that. Not positive on the date, so if I'm off by a year or two, I'm sorry, but I know it was in the early 80s that the Viking ship was one of a kind. It was the largest ship of its kind back then, when it opened up, and it held 80 passengers. That's a lot of people, so that's a pretty big ship, pretty big boat. Everybody used to love riding that. Tastes great, less filling. I mean, they would do that. It was just so funny. And I was getting off of that from the Miller commercials, Miller beer commercials. And they also had a big Eli Ferris wheel. They had a little small Ferris wheel. It wasn't very big. It was Big Eli. Is what the name of the Ferris wheel was, and it was by Eli Bridge Company, and it wasn't a very big Ferris wheel, but it was a small one, like maybe 24 seats on it at the most, or maybe even less than that. It might have been a little less than that, but I don't know. I never rode it because it always had a real big long line on it. So I would like to see Kings Island get a great big giant wheel. I think that'd be neat. That would make the skyline look pretty cool, because Kings Island don't have any type of a Ferris wheel over there. Years ago, they used to have Zodiac, which was kind of a Ferris wheel, but of course it's long gone as well. Adventure Express, I remember that coming in. What a great investment with that. That was really neat with those big old guys at the end, boom, 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 boom. And when all the effects were working good and everything back in the day, that was a really nice coaster they put in. Hopefully they can get that fixed back up again, and maybe they have since I've been over there. It's been a while since I've ridden that ride, and I haven't got a clue, what's going on with that. And another one, next we'll talk about the Bavarian Beetle. If you guys remember the Bavarian Beetle, years ago it was also known as Galaxy at some parks, a Wild Mouse or Mouse Trap. Those are some of the nicknames for it, but it was called Bavarian Beetle at Kings Island, and it was a very short-lived coaster. I believe it spent 7 seasons at the park before they dismantled that, and they placed Fest House right where it's at now. Fest House was built right pretty much on top of where Bavarian Beetle was once stood. Another one was the Der Spinnin Keggers. I don't know if many of you remember the Der Spinnin Keggers. That was a really good spin and puke ride, the Drunken Barrel ride. Now that was a really cool ride. I don't know why they took that ride out for us. I always thought that was pretty neat because the whole thing was like a big cauldron system, and the whole table would spin, and it would even elevate up in the air, and you'd be a little bit on the sides, and you could spin the barrels, and then and also the platform with like 4 barrels on a platform would turn at the same time as the big one would turn. I think maybe 6 barrels, but it had a pretty good, good theming to it. And it was German themed, and that's what happened. Now, where's the German theming at? Come on now, Cedar Fair, let's bring that German theming back. Let's bring it back to Kings Island, because right now there is no Oktoberfest section in the park. I'd love to see that come back, and put the flags back up and things like that for the theming of it. I mean, I thought that was really awesome. I would love to see that come back. Saltwater Circus. Remember Dolly and Molly? But no, Skipper. I'm sorry, it was Skipper, wasn't it? Skipper and Dolly. I'm sorry if I'm wrong on that. Gosh, this was so long since I've watched them. I loved the Saltwater Circus. The dolphins, I mean, that was so awesome. Go in there and sit there and watch them have a splashing good time. God, I hate to see that going, But again, Cedar Fair don't do animals, so. But unfortunately, it did go out before Cedar Fair took ownership of Kings Island. But the Saltwater Circus was really good. What about the Rotor? If you remember the Rotor, you used to be able to spin, the ride would spin and the floor would drop out. You'd be up against the wall and the floor would drop down about, I don't know, about maybe 2 feet at the most. It would just drop down several inches, and you'd be stuck to the wall spinning real, kind of fast, and another puke machine basically. But it was made by Chance Manufacturing, and it was really a neat ride, and very few Rotors are left in existence today. And I'd like to see something like that come back again. It would be nice if Chance come out with a new model, a new Rotor model, and bring it back. I think that would be awesome. I'm trying to remember. If memory serves me right, there's one at COSI, which is in Columbus, Ohio. but I don't know if they closed it down or not. And also, I think Worlds of Fun, the Cedar Fair Park in Kansas City, I believe that they also have a rotor, but it's called Finish Fling, I believe. I've never been to that park, so I'm not positive. I mean, I've seen their website, and I'm pretty sure it's called the Finish Fling or something like that. But it's at Worlds of Fun, but they also have, it's the same thing, but it's just called a little different, different name there. But there's not very many rotors left in existence. Bayern Kurve. Oh my God, I love that ride. I miss that ride. That ride was so awesome. It was like a bobsled run, and you had this like Olympic, like ski Olympic area, and it was like had a winter theme to it, and it was a very noisy machine, very noisy. That thing, I mean, the ride was very noisy, but it once it got to the top speed as it spun around. The cars would start out, you'd be like this, and then as the ride starts going, you would tilt. The cars would tilt, so that way you're on the track and you're going around going about 60 miles an hour. And once it hits the top speed, the big old horn would sound, and it was like real big loud noise. Don't make fun of me doing that, okay? But no, but you know what I'm saying. If you want to find out exactly what a Bayern Kurve is and you're not sure what it is, go to kennywood.com, look up their park, and they have the very last Bayern Kurve in America right now. The very last one in existence in America. Now overseas, there may be some overseas or in other countries, but in the United States of America, they have the last one in existence. And Kennywood, that's another topic. Go to that park, check it out. If you like nostalgia, that's the park to go to. They've got a lot of neat older rides, and they're still running. And I'll tell you what, you'll be amazed. Is if you're an older person, you'll remember those old rides that was at these amusement parks back in the day. And even Kings Island had some of them old rides. But definitely check it out. Sky Ride. Okay, yep, they had a sky ride. People got stuck up there for 4 hours one time when the power went out. And I believe the power went out, and they got stuck up there. And then another time, real heavy wind came up, and the cables kind of jumped the track. And the cables got intertwined on one end of the sky ride. So luckily nobody got hurt, but the ride did shut down, and they had a lot of trouble with it, and the ride was taken out very soon after that occurrence. And if you look that up on the news, on the internet, there is an article that is on the internet that shows footage of that. Not actual footage, but pictures of rescues where they had to take fire truck ladders to get up there and get the people down by ladder. And yes, that is true. They couldn't get them, they couldn't get them down any other way because it was mechanically disabled. The ride was totally disabled. There was no way that they could get the people down without taking them down by fire truck ladder. And if you look at how they did it, man, it was some scary stuff. I mean, it was very scary. And for them people that were stuck up there and them having to come down the way they did, because back then the ladders wasn't as tall as they are nowadays. Nowadays, fire trucks got longer ladders. Back then, their ladders wouldn't hardly reach. They couldn't reach them. And it was pretty tricky. So a lot of them people had to get down, and it's really scary, okay? And it was serious, okay? And that's the reason why the Sky Ride left Kings Island, I'm sure, because it wasn't very popular after that. The Tumblebug. If you remember the Tumblebug, I love the Tumblebug. Man. And again, Kennywood has the very last Tumblebug in existence in the United States. I'm pretty sure of that. And it's called the Turtle. Now, there might be one at Lake Compounce still. I think somebody said there was one at Lake Compounce, but I think they took it out, though. But I'm pretty sure that there's only one left in the United States. There might be two, but I know there's only pretty much one left. That's at Kennywood. It's called the Turtle. And anyways, Tumblebug ride, it was a really cool ride. I would love to see them bring that back to Kings Island. If you watch the Brady Bunch episode, you'll see that in there. And also the Flying Dutchman. It was like resembled of old shoes. It was in the Oktoberfest themed area, and you could sit there and get these wooden shoes, and they was metal shoes, but they looked like wooden shoes, and it would go up and just turn and spin real fast, make you dizzy, but that's all it did. That ride still exists today at Kentucky Kingdom. Okay, years ago, Kentucky Kingdom bought that ride from Kings Island, and it's still in operation today down at Kentucky Kingdom in Louisville, Kentucky. Skylab, man, you know, that ride had a lot of mechanical issues, but it was the very first of its kind to be the size that it was. It was a giant Huss Enterprise model, and it was called Skylab. And I'll tell you what, it was a big ride, and it was an awesome ride. I love that ride. Unfortunately, it had a lot of mechanical problems. It had a lot of downtime. It just then one season it sat standing but not operating for one season, for most of the season anyway. I mean, it was working the first part of the season, then it was down the rest of the year, and it was kind of propped up on blocks of wood and stuff, and they just had a lot of problems with it. And then they kind of filled that area in, and they took the ride out, and it was gone for a season. Then the following season it come back, and then it broke down again, and that was the end of that. And it never opened again after that last breakdown. But yes, the the Skylab was really an awesome ride. Let's see, the racers. Man, you know, I'd like to see them bring back the backwards racer. You know, back then it was really neat. Of course, Cedar Fair, they took ownership of the park, and they said that ride is meant to go forwards and forwards only. So they're kind of sticking to that rule. I don't know if it's because of any kind of injuries or anything like that. It's just that they want it to go forward, and that's just the way they want it. So it would be nice for them to put it backwards again. I mean, that was a pretty neat experience. I think that started in 1982. And Don Helbig over at Kings Island, he still has the championship, I think, of the most rides ridden on the racer. And I'm not sure how many it is, what he's up to now, but it's really neat. He did a big feat. The Monster, they still have that there at the park. That's a really nice monster ride because it's a deluxe model, and it's made by the Irely Aircraft Company. And that's a great ride as well. And it's beautiful at nighttime too. It's all lit up with the green and yellow bulbs. It's really cool. Halley's Comet. If you remember those type of rides, it was like a big cage thing that you got into, and it'd hold probably about 40 people or so, and you would stand up against the back of it, and it was like the cage. You know, it was mesh, wire mesh that you laid up against, and the ride would spin, and then it would go up on its side and spin. If you've been to Americana Amusement Park, they had one that's called the Electric Rainbow, which is the same thing, except the Halley's Comet was a little smaller version of the Electric Rainbow that they had at Americana. I think the one at Kings Island, the Halley's Comet, was probably maybe a 32-passenger one, possibly. But it was a smaller model. Scrambler is still there. That's a big Eli company ride as well. And that's there. That's a staple of the park. That'll be there probably ever and ever and ever. Zephyr swings. Another neat swing ride. That park did need a swing ride back in the day, and they brought that in, and that was really neat. 1986 that was installed. Same year Skylab was installed, and also the Cinema 180 theater that they had back then, which became a laser tag, and then it became something else, I think, briefly, and then it went defunct, of course. They didn't use it anymore. And then also they made the Dodgems bigger, because years ago, if you remember, the Dodgems used to be in the that one building right directly next to the Scrambler, which is no longer there. It's Coney Barbecue now, but there used to be that long building there, and the Dodgems was, like, if you're looking at the building, the Dodgems was on the left side, and the other side, the other ride was called a Cuddle Up. And that was like a teacup ride, similar to a whip ride, or a small version of a teacup ride of what they had at Disney World. So that's what that was. Flight Commander. Now that's another ride that was pretty neat back in its day, but it had it was just a bad design. It had some issues with it. there was a lady that fell to her death on June 9th of 1991. Okay, I had to think there for a minute. And that was also known as Black Sunday. It was the day that 3 people did die at Kings Island inside the park that day, and 2 separate accidents. One being the lady being a drunk lady, fell out of the flight commander ride, fell to her death on the flight pad below, which was all concrete, not good. And I'm sure whoever's seen that, witnessed that, probably, I couldn't imagine. And then the other 2 deaths was from where the up there where the lake or the little pond is, where the Viking ship is. One of the aerator motors had short circuited that was inside the water and electrocuted 2 people. And one guy fell into the pond, and I believe he was drunk as well. And they was trying to save him, and then the other person was electrocuted as well, and another worker, Kings Island employee. So there was an employee and a customer death there, and then also the death with the lady out of the flight commander, Candy Taylor. I'll never remember or forget her name, and it's really sad because she lost her life on flight commander. They did make some revisions to it after that, but it was also a very unpopular ride after that. Eventually they just took it out. It was a neat ride. I wish it would have went up higher though. You know, I mean, swing out more, because the arms didn't swing out as far, I didn't think. But it was a pretty neat little ride. It wasn't too bad. The Windseeker, I rode that a couple years ago. I broke my fear of it, so I wouldn't ride it when they first built it, because all them people kept getting stuck on them at all the other Cedar Fair parks. And I was like, there's no way I'm going to ride that thing, because I don't want to be stuck up there 300 feet in the air for hours, like what happened out in California. I mean, look what happened with them. They were stuck for hours one time, 4 hours, and people was up there, you know, during the daytime, and they got to watch the sunset at nighttime before they even was able to be brought down, and that was pretty bad. So they ended up taking it out after that incident, and they took it to Worlds of Fun, and now I believe it's called Stillhawk or something, Still Force, Stillhawk, something like that, and it's there at Worlds of Fun now. And they repainted it, rethemed it, and they revamped that ride. So as far as I know, it hasn't had any more problems since then. The Vortex, right? First of all, I'm going to say, if this video cuts off before I finish this video, I'm going to go ahead and upload it, and then I'll do a part 2 to this, okay? So if you're following me this far, it's 32 minutes in. I know it's a long video, but if this does cut off, please look for part 2, okay? If it happens to do that. Vortex, I was the first rider on Vortex, and did that the year it was built, in 1987. I was working there at the park, and I am on this photo, this Vortex Time. This is an employee newsletter, and I am right there. Hold my hand up there. This was Kings Island, and that is April 1987. We rode it in March. It was in March, and we got to ride that. And we're all employees on there, and it was cold. You can see we got our coats on. It was snow flurries that day.